Welcome to Those Were the Days, the show where we stroll down the road of TV from yesterday, taking a look at every show we see like a house in the neighborhood, deciding to pick one out and share it again with you all. Going into the house of that show and looking at it with today's eyes and seeing if it holds up, if it's worth watching again, if it's like we remember, or if it needs to be left alone and just torn down. I'm your host this week, Audie, and I can't wait to start our new topic this month, 80s cartoons. But before we dive into what we watched this week, I need to introduce my fellow people. I mean koalas. They're all koalas, I promise. First, the guy who gives the best Eskimo kisses, Travis.
Listen, there is a very, very strict rule in place in this house that we do not... Wait, what? Oh, I'm being told that we don't care about that rule anymore, so carry on.
Second, it's the girl with the magical lipstick, Amy.
It's the 80s, and we're importing and overdubbing a whole bunch of new cartoons in a really specific way. Let's throw them all at the wall and see what sticks.
And third, the guy who still wears his overalls with just one shoulder strap, Steven.
Now listen up, everyone. Everything that you like or hate about television is going to be talked about on this show because, as we know, television is one of the four main food groups for your brain, so it becomes big and strong so you can do what you need to do to support your family and friends in trying times. And as you know, 80s cartoons are kind of wild, and sometimes you just say things until the lips on a cartoon character finally stop moving so you can take a breath.
All right.
Ah, jeez.
So, if by chance you have no idea what we could possibly be talking about...
To be fair, we don't either. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, we're talking about the most random cartoon I watched back in the day, Noozles. Now, when we came up with 80s cartoons, and there were several that I wanted to try. And I'm just going to give a couple shout outs for those. They'll probably come up in the future because Lord knows we've got plenty to talk about, like Ghostbusters, not the real Ghostbusters, but Ghostbusters, Tiger Sharks, Dino Saucers, Cops, The Littles, Dino Riders. But I really wanted to talk about this random cartoon for so long. I figured now would be a good time to talk about it. Now, before we get into it, I know we kind of talked about it last week, but what's everyone's history with Noozles? Let's start with you, Travis.
So I remember this. I remember this being on Nickelodeon. I think it was Nick Jr. Probably, I want to say it was like an afternoon show. I don't remember a single damn thing about this show except that opening started and I did complete sleeper agent, like wake up. Like I was like, I knew I was back in my living room for that. And then the show started and I was like, what is going on? I had no clue. So I was all in for about 30 seconds and then just lost again.
Nice. What about you, Amy?
I did not have cable growing up. So this one completely missed me. Now, when I looked at the pictures of the show before I looked at even the IMDb about the show or the Wikipedia about the show. Now, I grew up watching an Australian animated film series that no one else has ever seen called Dot and the Kangaroo. And then also Dot and Santa Claus, which nobody knows. No one knows this. I have it on DVD. No one knows this. So I'm like, okay, all right, well, I can get on board here, surely. Oh, no, it's Japanese. Oh, okay. Okay, sure. Of course it is.
Mm-hmm.
Of course. Why wouldn't it be? Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
No, until now, I had no idea. And I'm not going to lie, I may still not have any idea.
All right. What about you, Steven?
Oh, the memories I have of Noozles. I didn't remember what the devil the show was called and could never have told you, but I did remember it was about 2 koalas and a little girl in a place called Koala Walla Land. And my most vivid memory of being on the floor in the living room watching this, like after school, I might have been 5 or 6. It was on Nick Jr., Travis. I think you're right about that. And I remember my mom going, Steven, this show is terrible. My mom hated this show. And I also didn't like it, but it fascinated me because I was watching the mouths move and they didn't match what was being said. And I remember this began my overall distaste for anime. That's my entire life. This show was the first anime style, I would say. To call it a proper anime is probably insulting to anime, but it's the first anime I ever watched, and it bothered me a lot because I've mentioned this before. I was a Chuck Jones, Looney Tunes. There's a certain style of animation that I accepted, and my brain rejected this wholeheartedly. But did sit and watch it for the 30 minutes I was allowed to watch it.
Of course.
Because, I mean, it was there, and it was weird.
It was.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I picked it because I grew up watching it. So, definitely remember watching it. And so, Noozles actually is an anime. It is classified as anime, Steven. Like,
all right.
Oh, yeah.
Not all anime is, ninja stuff.
What's the eyes that it's not anime eyes? It's not traditional anime eyes. So I was like, it's anime mouth, but they're like, they don't have the big eyes. So
it's just
I wasn't sure.
Different style. There are actually different styles of anime. So, but it is by the Japanese animation studio Nippon Animation, which is actually known for doing several series based on Western literature. So, like, they're known for their series on Anne of Green Gables and The Adventures of Tom Sawyer.
I need to see that.
So but with Noozles, it's actually a 26 episode series. Originally aired in Japan from July to December in 1984. Then it was edited and dubbed for the U.S. for Nick Jr. Ran from November of 88 to April of 93. Not that it was that long. It's just they kept going over and over again. It was also shown in the UK and dubbed in French, Korean, Spanish, Arabic, and German.
Amazing.
Wow, this show got around.
Wow.
It did.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yep.
Did the characters have to talk as fast in German and French as they did in English?
Oh, Lord. I don't know.
The German must be wild.
I want to see that.
Yeah.
I need it.
Phlegm flying everywhere.
Yeah.
So, for those of you who have no idea what the show is about, it is about a 12-year-old girl named Sandy Brown who receives a package from her long-lost grandfather. The package was lost at sea for apparently 38 years, was found and delivered, and opened, and they found this stuffed koala in it.
Now, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
The way that the description of this show is that 12-year-old Sandy got a package from her long-lost grandfather.
Right.
That had been lost 38 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not good at math.
I am not a math major. However, I'm pretty sure those timelines don't match up. Something ain't right there.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I don't know how to explain that. We'll call it a Japanese thing, I guess. I don't know.
Because anime is like an appropriate response to just about anything in any anime that you watch that you're like, I don't get this. You can just go, well, anime. And then you go,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes, of course.
Right.
I say that a lot watching Paprika. Yeah.
that
one in particular.
For sure.
Has that. Yeah.
So anyways, the package was delivered. It was delivered to her grandma. There was a little thing about, he wanted to give me a koala, but you can have it. Blah. Like it. If you watch the first episode, it's a weird little exchange. And it's like, man, they were really trying to cram this in and make that work.
Yeah.
Sandy discovers that when she gives the koala an Eskimo kiss, or apparently what is called a noozle, which
That makes sense because it's
where
like
the-
nuzzle.
Okay.
it is,
With
yeah.
your nose.
Although this
But
is
with
about
your
the only place
nose.
I've ever seen noozle.
Oh no,
Ever
it's
list.
not like a real word, but
Right.
it's not. It's also not a slur like the other way. So
Right.
I guess we'll go with it.
Yeah.
And that apparently wakes up our koala friend from magic sleepy time. So the koala's name is Blinky, and when he wakes up, his sister Pinky just shows up out of nowhere. Magic. Pinky apparently can fly and has a magic lipstick and also magic compact and does some other powerful things in the series. But with the magic lipstick, she can draw a hole in space-time reality,
Nice.
which we saw in
That's
this
what
episode.
I want.
So the show is mainly about Sandy's adventures with Blinky and Pinky and eventually discovering what actually happened to her grandfather and how Koala Walla Land and her dimension are connected.
Hot damn.
Yeah.
All right. Now I'm more in than I was when I was watching it. Let's go.
There is actually an overall arcing story about all that. So
It is one of the cool things about the Japanese cartoons that did make the trip over is they were like, a lot of them were like this, where they just made 26 episodes. It wasn't meant to be a continuing story. They were just like, here's a story. We're
Mhm.
making this, and then that's it. Nick Jr. just ran it for 5 years.
Right.
But yeah, I like that there's like an overarching story that they told. Because I reading the plot breakdown on Wikipedia, and I was like, I vaguely remember some of this.
Yeah, for sure. So, but this particular episode that we watched, episode 15, called Koala Walla Land, and it's actually the first time we're introduced to the other dimensional world. So it starts off in typical 80s cartoon fashion with a theme song that's nothing but the name of the show, sung to music.
Sure.
And then we open up with Sandy at school and learning that all living things come from parents.
Sure.
All right.
And
That's
she's
fairly reasonable lesson to learn.
Like, mm-hmm.
Imagine that.
And she's like, of course, I need to ask Blinky about that. And she goes home and she does. She starts talking to Blinky, who's just sitting out there eating eucalyptus plants.
Don't eat eucalyptus, kids.
No,
No,
Don't.
not for you.
It's not for you.
it's
Oh.
poison, right?
It is very
But-
poison.
Mhm.
But koalas eat it. But koalas
They do, and
also
they
are-
get stoned. That's why
Yeah.
they're kind of
They're smooth brained.
yeah.
Koalas
They really
are the dumbest
are.
creatures on earth.
They are not bright.
Yeah.
No,
Like they
when I say
won't.
smooth brain. That's
They have a really
legit.
hard time keeping them in captivity. Well, they did. Like now they've figured it out because if you put eucalyptus in a bowl, they don't know what it is,
right.
and they would like
Mhm.
not eat and practically starve. Like it has to be like on a tree, and then they're
Yeah.
like, "Got
Mhm.
it." Sloths are over there going, "Look at these idiots, man! I don't know how they survive." Oh, fell out of a tree.
So Sandy goes and starts talking to Blinky and asking him about Koala Walla Land and his parents, and Blinky gets all funny about it. It's like,
It's real. That part was so good. He's like, "Well, what about
Yeah.
your parents?" Well,
things are really different. You wouldn't understand.
I was
And
so
then-
intrigued. I was like,
and
I
then-
need to know what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
And we get a payoff.
Mhm.
And then Pinky shows up. And Pinky is always like, don't give away our secrets. Don't tell her everything. Blah, blah, blah. And then she turns to Sandy and is just like, and don't ask about things that don't concern you.
Man, she's such a butthole.
She really
Yeah.
is.
Buzz Killington over
Mhm.
here.
And it's funny because then Pinky says, you'd have to go to know what it's like in Koala Walla Land. But too bad no humans are allowed. But then she's thinking to herself, yeah, it's not like if we went and Blinky would want to stay. Oh, wait. If we went, Blinky would want to stay. So Pinky immediately changes her mind and is like, hey, let's go.
Which should have been suspicious to Sandy. Let's be
Right.
real.
Sure.
Yeah,
Even
but
at
she's only
12.
learning that all living things have parents, so maybe we're not really
Yeah.
at that point of
Right.
All right,
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
red flags weren't invented until the late 90s. It's cool.
Yeah. So Sandy's like, okay, great. We can go after dinner with my mom, and my mom has to go somewhere.
Work. Mom has to
Yeah.
go to
Yeah,
work after
I love
dinner.
Mom is a boss. This
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
great.
So mom has to go do an interview with somebody. Lee's and Sandy is washing all the dishes in the world for 2 people.
I've cooked meals
this-
like that, though.
Yeah.
There was a really fun quote in here between talking to mom and mom leaving, because he was talking about mom's running for or in public office or something. It's like, how dare you? Of course, I have to go interview somebody because I'm in public office. Gee, mom, do you think I'll be able to run for public office? Of course, dear. Just that whole exchange.
Just don't talk
Just-
about your space koalas.
Right.
It just tickled me how that was just so, and everything was so fast. Everything
Yeah.
they were
So
saying was so
fast.
quick and
Oh,
not
yeah.
and just clippy, and it was
So
Yeah,
fast.
but we're gonna sit here and wash dishes for a very long time because we need to.
Yep.
yeah.
So Blinky comes downstairs to check and make sure mom's gone, and then Pinky shows up. And they're like, "Okay, let's do this." And so she uses her magic lipstick, draws a hole just there, and they go right through it. They go through the magic tunnel
Yep.
into where they're going. They get to this space world where everybody can fly and float around.
Great.
There's weird little light bulbs all over the place.
Yeah, to bring it back to our math discussion from earlier, here's a little
Yeah.
math question I have for you.
Yeah.
How many drugs, taken over what period of time, would you have to consume to come up with this?
Listen, I had a lot of theories about what was going on in Japan and how we as the United
Mhm.
States may or may not have had something to do with this. And then I saw an art exhibit with like ancient Japanese art, and I said, "Oh no, this is just who
Mhm.
they are.
This is
This is who they
this is
are.
who they have
We can
always
maybe
been.
claim Godzilla, but otherwise, this is just what they're doing over there, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know, man, but
Well,
it's
island
great.
life, man.
I love it. I love all of
Phenomenal.
it, but it is
They just go
bonkers.
for it.
It's wild
They just like, let's just do this.
because anime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Now they get there and they realize now, Sandy, humans aren't allowed here, so we need to give you a disguise.
Yeah.
So they give her this great disguise.
I've never more than this evening wished that I had a koala onesie because I would
I want-
100% have worn it.
Why do we watch this after Halloween?
I
Like, this
know.
was
Yeah.
perfect.
Right? So they give her this just barely a koala mask that gives her a nose and some ears, and that's about it. And very obvious
Mhm.
koala
Yeah.
mask.
Not
But-
unlike there's an episode of Futurama where they go to the ape planet and Amy has to wear her marmoset jammies.
Oh, right.
And it's very clearly just a onesie, but it's fine. It's good enough.
Yep. So they've got her disguise, and they realize they need to check in at the immigration office. You know,
Very
this
responsible.
space-time immigration office. And who's there but a big platypus immigration officer?
He's so good.
Yep. So basically, Pinky's trying to sweet talk them so they can get through. Because this seems to matter at some point. You know, it's like,
Like they could have just gone around.
right, exactly. Like she just barely talks to him, and that's about it. Something about, hey, let me see your grandkid, and he comes out with an egg when they're gone.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
That's
was
actually
good.
really pretty funny.
Yeah.
I also
Okay, so
love the
some of them, some
enthusiasm.
creatures have parents.
Apparently. Mm-hmm.
We're learning. I love when they
Hmm.
arrive in Kuala Lumpur Land and the level of enthusiasm from the voice actress playing Sandy. It's just like, wow,
Wow.
look at that.
Yep.
Wow. It's the most flat.
Yep.
So
You
good.
rip the
Listen,
hole in space time and you're flying, and that's
Mhm.
your reaction.
she has
Yeah.
recorded 30 episodes that day. Like
Yeah.
you need, you know,
Uh-huh.
she's getting paid 10 cents an hour. Like let
Oh,
her
yeah.
go.
Yep. And
They
not
did
just
those
this country.
karaoke style.
And not just
like,
this show. No,
right.
she's done.
Yeah.
She's done 8 different shows, 30
Mhm.
episodes.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
She's made $75.
Uh-huh.
We learned from the Sailor Moon actresses that they don't know what they don't have a script. They have the show in front of them with subtitles that they basically act out and read. Like
Mhm.
that is a
Mhm.
level of skill required for anime dubbing.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was.
Like-
It
Cold reading is a whole thing, man.
Yeah.
This was like one step up from the old Hong Kong kung fu films where
Yes.
they
Yeah.
just improved
Yeah.
the dubs.
Straight
Mhm.
up.
Like they just
Yeah.
make it somewhat match the lip movements. We don't care
Mhm.
what you say. This, they at least
Yeah.
had dialogue. They had things to say, but yeah, just cold reading karaoke style is insane.
Yeah.
And that was the joy of Kung Pao. If you hate the movie, I understand. But some of the appeal was that they were doing it like an old kung fu movie where they had to just improv the whole
Mhm.
thing. And
So
it's
good.
kind of wild that they
Mhm.
pulled it off. Anyway, back to
Yep.
the show.
So we're flying to Kuala Lumpur Land. Sandy has to take a moment because it's hot under that mask, and they, some what is it, emus that are passing
Okay,
by?
all right. This is the one part where I took issue because they do call them emus, but they
Right.
are very clearly cassowaries.
Right.
They've got the
Mhm.
thing on the
Yeah.
head and
Yeah,
the color, and they're like, "Oh, it's the
Mhm.
emu thing." I was like, "That's not an emu. That's
No.
a cassowary."
They also
Where-
weren't
Those things are mean.
Arguably way scarier.
right.
Yeah.
The emus also weren't defeating Australia in a war, so that was the way that I
No.
could tell.
No. hmm
No.
The cassowary is like a modern dinosaur.
It really is.
So,
It's like
yeah.
what
Uh-huh.
they're like really
Them and
evil
the-
things.
Is it not the hornbill? What's the
Shoebill.
one? Shoebill.
Mhm.
Oh,
That guy. That
That
I'm
is
not great
nightmare
with
fuel.
birds as it is, but they're
hmm
so scary.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they're hateful, full of hate
Uh-huh.
and rage.
Full of hate and rage.
So we do get to Kuala Lumpur Land, and we get down there, and we find a structure, and it's like, oh, that's where we used to play. It's like, okay,
Cool.
so they go play
Because that's how this conversation started.
Mm-hmm.
Was he's like that was the best, right? Because he was like, "Oh, let me tell you about all the places we used to play," and then Pinky's in the house going, "I hope he doesn't tell her all about the places we used to go."
Right. So we're going through this weird, basically like anthill type place that's just there that they apparently played in. They play around, play hide and seek, and then they decide to, hey, let's go somewhere else. Pinky thinks she's already got Blinky. She's like, he's gonna stay, and he's like, I'm not promising anything yet. And they go to their old house where they were born, and this is where we are introduced to Mama.
This is
And-
where we learn why he was so cagey about
Mhm.
all creatures having parents.
Mhm. Because Mama is a big old robot that is,
And there's just
apparently
babies in orbs in a bigger orb.
Yep,
They're real cute though.
Oh,
they
yeah.
are. Yeah. So that's apparently how koalas are "quote unquote" born in Kuala Lumpur Land.
Nope.
And that
Pod-
is
just pod babies.
that is
Uh-huh.
all the explanation we get too.
That is, yeah.
That's
It's
all
like,
we
there
need.
you go. All right, let's go.
See, told you it was different. You know what? You're right. It absolutely is.
Mhm.
That is,
is
not
very
how we
different.
do it here. You're right.
I just learned today that everything has parents. Now I'm learning that some people's parents are a robot.
Though arguably, pods taken care of by a robot is not that much weirder than the way marsupials go. So I guess it's fine.
That's true. I could get down with a robot
Mhm.
children
I mean,
birth.
yeah.
Babe,
Yeah.
create more children with
Yes,
robot help.
this is the Japanese way of thinking about that, so that makes sense
hmm
in a way that doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah, the old
So-
artificial womb idea. It's been around
Uh-huh.
for decades.
So we finally leave, and we meet an older koala.
Mhm.
And they're talking to him, and he's looking at Sandy, and they're like, yeah, she's a different koala from Sandyland. And the old koala sees right through everything.
But how?
I know.
Well, apparently because Sandy reminds him of a special friend he had. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Story arc.
hmm
By the way,
Um,
I don't. Did they name him? Did they say his name in
Not
this
in this
episode?
episode. No,
because
no,
his
they
name
didn't.
is amazing. Do you
Yeah,
want to
his
know what
name
his
is
name
mentioned. His name is
Random.
mentioned, but we don't actually connect them in this episode.
Okay. Because his name is the High Dingy Doo.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Incredible.
yes.
Right.
That's the best thing I've ever heard.
Yep.
Let's
So-
I'm going to use that in normal conversation somewhere in the next week. I don't know how, but I'm going to do it.
So, yeah, they're talking to him, and he's talking about how he has a. Sandy reminds him of a special friend from long ago, about the same time he last saw Blinky. Again, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, story arc. Later episodes. Because then we just continue on with our adventure. And apparently he's not going to turn in Sandy. Okay.
That was nice.
Great.
So, we talk about the baby koalas a little bit. And we ask Blinky if he wants to stay. And he's still not sure. And then we fly through and we find a school. And everybody's just taking a nap.
Yeah,
Like koalas do.
like they do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine with that. I could go for a nap.
Yeah.
But then
Anytime.
all of a sudden a patrol car comes along and starts chasing them. And this is where we got the name, because he's telling them, in the name of the High Dingy Doo, stop.
That's right.
Oh, he was the High Dingy Doo.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait to say this in a meeting tomorrow.
Yeah.
The more like serious and problematic the meeting, the better.
Yeah.
I have a big meeting tomorrow with like 50 people. I'm going to find a way to say it.
I'm so
Excellent.
proud.
And so we just get a chase throughout Koala Walla Land and everywhere else. They're chased by this guy, then they go through the emu cassowary homes and start to get chased by them. And then they hear there's a report of Blinky and Peaky, and they believe Sandy is a human. So the jig is up.
Oh, no, they figured it out.
And then they go through the kangaroo place, and now kangaroo pods are chasing them. They're being chased all over the place, and somehow Sandy is able to go much faster just by swimming with her arms.
Sure.
Sure.
Why not?
Because
Yeah.
She's never
Superman
flown
does
before.
the
but-
whole
Mhm.
Superman 2 arms fast, 1 arm cruise. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
same idea.
But she's just doing the breaststroke and going faster, and gets Blinky and Peaky. Everybody's chasing them, and then they go to this place with a bunch of rocks, and that's how they're able to lose them somewhat.
That scene
Dash-
confused the bejesus out of me. Why couldn't they fly through the rocks? She had to like jump across the rocks all of a sudden, and I'm just thinking, you were flying effortlessly moments ago, and now you're like
Because
jumping.
I think
from
it
rock
was
to
if
rock.
I think the idea was if she wanted to stay in the concentrated area of rocks,
Mhm.
it was safer to walk, which is
Oh,
what
okay,
caused
I see.
all of the pods to crash.
Right.
Because
She was
you
kicking
know.
rocks everywhere.
She was kicking
Yeah.
the rocks as she was going.
The strategy.
Yeah.
Yep. They keep being chased, and then the old koala shows back up again and helps him. He's like, just hide over here. And all the patrol cars come, and he's like, they went that way. And that works.
It always
Because-
works in cartoons,
Right.
even
Right.
in
Well,
no matter the
yeah.
nation they come from.
Well, especially
They
since
went that
even-
way.
Even
Well,
though we
how's
don't know it, this is the High Dingy Doo telling them they went that way.
Yeah.
So we get one more conversation with the High Dingy Doo, and is like, hey, do you happen to know somebody with the last name Brown? And Sandy's like, that's my name. What about the first name Benjamin? Hey, that's my grandfather's name. It's like, oh, really? Okay. It's like, how do you know that? Oh, I just do.
Oh,
Again, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, story arc later.
Right. Subtle
Um,
storytelling.
But because of all this, he does tell Blinky he should go back to Sandy's world, like as a
Yeah.
mission of sorts. And Blinky's like, no, okay. And Pinky's just okay with it at this point.
Pinky's given up at this point. Pinky's like, what?
Right.
Whatever.
Yep. So we go back to Sandy's world. It's nighttime. Mom has just showed up. We're getting ready. We jump into bed with our pajamas. Mom comes in. Oh, so cute with your little koala. And then closes the door. And then all of a sudden she realizes she still has her disguise on. And
Which is
that's-
like, I left my child unsupervised and now she's dressed like a koala. Yeah. Sure.
fine.
I do. My favorite part,
Oh.
though, is that, like any good mother, when you go in to check on your child who should be asleep, you flick the light on. for
Mhm.
sure.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's what happens
Yeah.
always.
Yeah.
But I
Wake
will
up!
say,
Are you asleep? Go back to bed.
Hey,
I
are
will
you
say,
sleeping?
as a parent of children around this age, them going to sleep with random masks and stuff on their
Yeah.
head, yeah,
That
that happens.
Checks
that
out.
tracks.
Mhm.
That's not weird at all. But yeah, that was Noozles. So that was this episode,
So
Koala
weird.
Walla Land. So what did we think? Let me start with you, Amy.
I mean, other than being mad about the cassowaries, it was phenomenal. It was so wild. I don't even like. I mean, I'm not gonna like sit down and go through the back catalog, but what a weird delight. And I mean, like, I guess American animation is really weird too. It's just weird in a different way.
Sure.
Mhm.
And I love that. But I mean, like, I grew up watching a random Australian animation that no one had seen. I had imaginary brothers in Australia. So, like, that's the thing, right? That's the crime of all this, is that this would have been 100% my jam
Right.
because it was
Yeah.
like Australian animals, and I would have been
Mhm.
like, this is great.
And they actually do go to Australia later on in the series. Like
Incredible. Yeah,
Um,
no, I would have loved that.
Ayers
I would've
Rock
thought that
makes
was
an
great.
appearance, and
Well,
it's a very
I think
special thing.
Sandy lives in Australia.
Wouldn't she have
No,
to for
she's
the
not.
eucalyptus?
Nope. Nope.
Okay.
They
No,
make
there's
they make
eucalyptus
an
a lot of
effort in
places.
the first episode to say Grandma planted those eucalyptus trees because she wanted a koala. But I think they're definitely in the States somewhere.
Oh, okay.
They
But
were
they
big
do-
in California. They were part of the gold rush.
Yeah.
I maybe went down a rabbit hole about eucalyptus.
There you go. But they do go to Australia later on in the series. Like, again,
Okay.
it plays a part. Steven, what about you?
Man, I was taken back to the old days of sitting on the brown carpet watching this on the cabinet TV, and I don't want to do it again. It was still a bad show. I did not enjoy it. But like always, it's a different light when I talk about it with you guys. Like doing this together, I can hate an episode of television and find great joy in having seen it and talking about it with you all.
Yeah.
And I hope you, dear listener, if you have watched this, also enjoy the shenanigans that we put forward for you. But no, I'm never watching this again, and I now am my mom saying, "Man, that was awful."
Travis, what about you?
You know, as I said at the beginning, I remembered nothing of this show, but I remember that opening. I do wish instead of Noozles, it had just used the translated Japanese title, which is The Wondrous Koala Blinky, because I think that's great.
Sure.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
it's a very
Yeah.
Japanese
Better name.
title.
Right.
It was because I grew up with things like Voltron, which were, another anime that came over and that one got really changed in its translation. Which other things that this director had done, like he was part of Space Battleship Yamato, or Star Blazers, and a bunch of the original Macross stuff was also the same animation director.
Yeah.
So like that took me back, but as far as watching more of Noozles, not so much. It was fine. Like it was weird, and I like weird, goofy stuff. Like, but it was just sort of there. Like, because I don't have a strong connection to it, it was fine. However, I have to ask this: am I the only one that was convinced that there was like a line of toys or plushes or something? Like, I would have, if you had just shown me the picture of Blinky, I would have put down hard money that I had that as a kid, like as a plush toy. And there's nothing.
I'm going to call it a stuffed koala, but it was a lot closer to taxidermy in feel than like a plush. And I'm fairly certain that it was, in fact, like rabbit fur. And it had like a leather nose. I don't know. I was just really into Australia, and I think that's why someone got it for me.
Well,
but it was scary.
The thing is, if you go down the rabbit hole in Wikipedia and stuff, you'll find that this show was created at a time when the world was going crazy for koalas. So it's entirely possible you might have seen or had stuffed koalas not associated with the show at all, but because the world was kind of crazy for koalas at the time.
Yeah, it's the specific like stuffed koala in a pair of overalls and a t-shirt with just one strap. That for some reason, like I feel like maybe it was in the previous universe I was in, and I've slipped across.
Yeah,
Who
maybe.
knows? You know, that was in the Berenstein Bears universe.
Yeah.
There you go. Mm-hmm.
I was
that
convinced that Blinky had red overalls and that they had both straps. That's the way I remember him.
Mm-hmm.
But I think somewhere my brain is like munging together Roger Rabbit and the koala, the
Yeah.
overalls, and
Yeah,
I'm putting
yeah.
it all together. But I swear that that koala had red overalls.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know I'm wrong, but maybe when we all transitioned to Berenstain Land, all of this changed. Who are we
Could
to
be.
say?
Yeah.
Also, Koala Walla Land is a great name, but all I could think of was Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome and Tomorrowland. That's all I could think of every time they would say Koala Walla Land.
Nice.
Which may be where they got it from. So, but yeah, I mean, I had fun with this. It was, a big nostalgia bomb. I don't feel the need to go back and watch any more either. I read the Wikipedia. It's like, oh yeah, that's what this story did. Okay, cool.
Yeah, got the Cliff Notes.
But it was fun to watch. It was fun to share with you guys, especially being such a weird thing. Like that's what I liked about it. It is so weird.
Yeah, like they go through that portal and then just can fly. Like all of them can.
Mm-hmm.
But yet some of the koalas and cassowaries needed pods to fly around and to chase them. Because, got to have that.
I don't regret watching it. I'm real glad you brought it to us. It's great.
Yeah. So, but that was Noozles. Next week is Steven's turn, right?
It is.
And what are you bringing to us, Steven?
I went straight to the goat, Audie. I didn't stop. I went right past go. I collected $200, and I'm bringing you DuckTales.
Yes!
Yeah,
boy.
that's right.
There you go.
Well done.
See what I did there.
Yeah.
You did
This
there.
song is already stuck in my head and is going to be there for the foreseeable future.
I've heard every genre do the DuckTales song, and it is always awesome.
Yeah.
So
no matter
I'm
what.
listening to the Moon theme all week now. So
Yep. Apologies, you're losing multiple hours to just watching DuckTales on accident. Season 1, episode 49, Raiders of the Lost Harp. Episode 49 on Disney Plus is actually episode 43. That happens sometimes. So if you watch the show on Disney Plus, it is season 1, episode 43 is what you're going to look for, or Raiders of the Lost Harp.
Excellent.
nice.
Pretty flippin' excited about it.
Yeah. That'll be great. Did we get any feedback this week?
I did post. I posted on a few spots, and we got one bit of feedback I saw from our friend Corey, who said, quote, "Well, you've finally done it. I'm stumped by this one." So we found something Corey had never heard of before.
I like to picture Corey watching this show, though.
Yeah.
Oh, I absolutely do.
That's a pleasant image in my head.
Yeah. He was
Like
talking about
some
Noozles,
snacks.
FYI.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and we got some feedback in our YouTube comments, which I never think about telling people to go to our YouTube channel, and it's in the show notes as well. And you could listen to, or you can leave comments on every episode there. So we got this one on the Boy Meets World episode, the one with the Halloween stuff.
right.
I think this is a lot of people's favorite episode, and that's because it plays into the tropes, advances the actual plot of Cory and Topanga's breakup. I didn't find the writing lazy. They had like 2 or 3 South Park references at most, and they were delivered well, so it didn't bother me. This episode is so funny, though. Cory's line, "Will always remember he was this tall after Kenny dies," might be my favorite. Or Jax, "Have you lost weight since you were last scared after Eric jumps into his arms?" Also love the janitor. Yep, that was those were all wonderful comments.
Okay. And
yep,
I shared with you guys earlier today the Pod Meets World, the official podcast done by Ryder Strong and everybody that, the actors going through, just did this for their Halloween episode.
Wild.
Yeah, that's cool.
I highly recommend listening to it because they do a lot of the same things that we did and enjoyed it. And it's really interesting to hear their feedback. Nobody knows who was the janitor. like nobody. Like I listened to their episode, and then they had another episode following it with the director. Nobody remembers who was the janitor. Like they're shouting on their podcast, "Hey, if you remember who you are, let us know." They were also incredibly freaked out by Wilfred L. instantly just going to town on Jennifer Love Hewitt. Like they were like, "Yeah, this was weird for us too," and we were there. So
I did
Well,
like.
what's funny is oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say his comment about it was great. Like, I didn't realize it was like that, and then I watched it back, and I'm like, whoa! Like even he was taken aback by kind of how it was.
Yeah, they all were. Apparently, it was the steamiest makeout scene in the entire series.
Sure.
I would agree with that.
Real.
It was just, and and there was awkwardness all over it. But they were young. They were, you know, you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. So, but it's definitely one that, a lot of people find is their favorite episode. And they, again, go listen to Pod Meets World and hear their talking about it. And they talk about it from behind the scenes and how they, handled everything. And it seems like they had a blast making that particular episode. So
sounds like a great episode to pair with our episode.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So anything else we need to mention?
No, we got no emails, and I didn't see any tweets or anything about this particular show.
Okay.
Yeah.
But DuckTales, we want to hear about DuckTales from you.
Yes.
We do.
By all means.
Got to be people who have thoughts on DuckTales.
Yes, for sure. So definitely reach out. All our social medias, everything is, in the show notes. Reach out to us, email us, whatever you need to do. Let us know what you think about DuckTales. What are your thoughts? And especially the episode we're watching. So until next week and DuckTales, for Amy, for Steven, for Travis, I'm Audie, and you've been listening to Those Were the Days. We'll see you next week. Until then, go watch some more cartoons.